It was about 10 years ago my delusion of this game started. Well, that's not true. It started even before that. And even before that is where this all began. This endless rabbit hole of obsession. This undying pain I feel over a game that's long gone.
Sent us to hell, but we're going even deeper. Take back everything that we've lost. Cause I'm already a demon.
The chain of retaliation is what will truly bind this world together as one.
So back when I had my first PSP years ago, my uncle gave me a game called Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops for my PSP. At that time, the only time I've seen the game was he had a PS1 copy of the original Metal Gear Solid on the PS1. Outside of that, it was my first introduction to it. The problem is, I didn't have the normal Portable Ops on PSP with a story. I had Portable Ops Plus, on which I never really got too far into. But I am always been amazed by my ruthless ambitions or just drive to complete something, because I admit I like horrible in that game, but somehow I got so far into it. I don't understand how. I was able to get MGS4 Solid Snake and other things. I was able to play as Young Gray Fox. It was interesting, to say the least. But since then, years later, I ran into guys like Tetra Ninja, the YouTuber, and somewhat of Rad Black covering classic Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, watching their playthroughs of the game. And overall, slowly start to become a big time fan of, especially with MGS3. Now there's two different timelines of Metal Gear. There's the first half, what I call the Big Boss Saga, and then there's the second half, I call the Solid Snake Saga. In my opinion, I've always preferred the Big Boss Saga over the Solid Snake Saga, because a lot of the supernatural stuff is not just nanomachines. It's actually supernatural. Colonel Rogan can actually control electricity. The Cobra unit are actually like their abilities. The Sorrow is pretty much a living ghost. So compared to the Solid Snake Snuggle, in which it makes sense of why everything would be nanomachines, because just like in real life with the mainstream media, once something natural shows up, the media would like to do what? Overuse it, play it out, and over overutilize it in media, just like time travel. When Back to the Future did it, everybody wanted time travel. Just like how currently now, when one series does the multiverse, now everybody want multiverse and multi realities. These just used to be its own niche. Then it gets overplayed, and the next thing you know, they blame it. Well, I think the concept we just trash in general. Okay then. So I've always been a fan of the Big Boss Saga of Solid Snake. So this one I got introduced to. I believe, yeah, that's when I got introduced to Peace Walker. I believe I played Peace Walker before MGS3. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong about that. But one of those two I ended up playing it. Liked it, right? Like Big Boss, I like Katsuhara Miller. I loved all these characters. Agent Kozman, Pause, everybody. It was fascinating, especially going back to MGS3, the Cobra unit, the boss, the sorrow, the fear, the end, the fury, and the joy. Quite fascinating group of characters. But ever since then, especially those who was able to follow my original channel, I was probably the most hyped person from MGS5 on the planet. I watched that Elegant trailer back to back, over and over and over again. I saw every Red Band trailer. I was addicted like a crack addict to this stuff. MGS was just incredible, especially keeping up with Big Boss. Big Boss himself. See, what I mean by it gets played out, they can't recreate Conan Bogan or Psycho Mantis or the Cobra unit. So what do? They artificially make their own, just like how they tried to make an artificial Big Boss with the gene therapy for MGS1. Similar to with the Lata Santa Reed's project with Solid Snake, Solidus, and Liquid. They try everything to mass produce something that's natural, and it gets played out over time, which leads to the Patriots and so on and so on. But for MGS5, coming after that, and Ground Zeroes. Now, at first, it wasn't just MGS5. It was Ground Zeroes as one game. Another game just called the Phantom Pain, if I recall correctly. Then it turns out the Phantom Pain is the actual fifth game. Now, there's no excuse for Ground Zeroes to be $40. I don't know who made that choice. I can't say definitively it was Kojima. I can't say definitively if it was Konami. It was one of those two who made that choice for that to be $40. That's not a $40 experience. Good thing I paid $20. Even then, should be more close to 15, but it depends on who you ask. Right? And I kept up with every E3 appearance of this game. I saw every single Young Nego video breakdown of Metal Gear. I kept up with concept art. I kept up with everything. Because I had a die-hard obsession with this game. A die-hard love of something I haven't even played yet. Every trailer, launch trailers, concept art, everything. The Deja Vu missions from Ground Zeroes, replaying that demo over and over and over again, collecting all the tapes, listen to the interviews, and so on and so on. It was an obsession. Listening to music remixes and everything. So then, after some time, after a year after Ground Zeroes, the launch trailer released, and on September 1st, apparently, I should have sworn I thought it was at night, MGS5 released. And to this day, it's the only rare few games I was able to buy on day one. Got the day one edition on PS3, and I enjoyed it. I loved the game. I probably beat MGS5 at least a good 7-8 times. Now some of those times wasn't my fault. I had to reformat my PS3 several different times because I kept trying to play Fallout New Vegas on the PS3 and it never worked. The frame rate would drop to 0 for I won't be able to move forward, or it'll be some type of problem. At this point, the only way I can play Fallout New Vegas, is whether I buy it on the Xbox or on PC. I'm not finna reformat my PS3 again over that gosh damn game. When the game came out, I enjoyed it, but over time, a lingering feeling started to creep in. Like, you play through it once, yeah, it's great, you know, it's not perfect, but you're great. I really enjoyed it, right? Then you play it through it again, and again, and again, and again. And then slowly over time you start to notice the the inconsistencies. In my personal opinion, and it's kind of confirmed by Kojima, MGS5 was never finished. It is a game that should have came out in 2016. Easily. Technically, nobody knows the true ending of Metal Gear Solid 5. Besides from Kojima, the art department, and whoever worked in that game, and Konami, who got the files left over, those are the only ones who know what the real ending of MGS5 is. Well, this is a conspiracy. Oh, no, it's not. Kojima pretty much confirms it in the recent interview, and you're gonna answer me some questions, right? Why did they so heavily push a Red Band trailer for this game? If somebody say, what do you mean? Have you heard of any other game with a Red Band trailer? Any other one? And in those Red Band trailers, what do we see? We see child soldiers, which does show up in the game. But would child soldiers really cause for a Red Band trailer? We got animes where there are kids fighting each other, blowing each other up. Why a Red Band trailer? Well, people getting tortured. There's a person who get tortured in pretty much every Metal Gear game. Solid Snake in the first. Gray Fox is tortured in Metal Gear 2. So it just... Metal Gear Solid, like, there's somebody tortured in every game. So it can't just because, well, they showed up some torture. Which goes to my personal theory. There were supposed to be a plot line in the game where dead children were in it. Because we can't explain why we have Venom Snake walking through a battlefield of unknown carcasses, and we never see that place ever show up. That cutscene is non-existent in the main game. I played this game long enough to know pretty much every gosh darn cutscene. It never shows up. That never shows up. Some other cutscenes don't show up. Of MGS5s. And it's very strange. Similar how the whole Camp Omega section, all that section is cut out. We never go back to Camp Omega. So technically we don't even know how this game's supposed to be. Right? Another way you could tell for some pattern for the game is all the side missions. When you first do the side missions, it's like, alright, you know, you gotta save this guy, do this and that. Wandering metal based soldiers get going to the side missions is great, right? But then you get towards the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2, you make it to Zaire, Africa, and you start to see the exact same side missions over and over and over without any change. Every time you load back into the map, you're gonna see the exact same side missions. Why do I gotta take out 20 different armor units, 20 different unlucky dogs, 20 different prisoner distractions? You gotta be kidding me. And then you look at the way Mother Base looks. Why does it look so bare bones? It looks so barren. But in Peace Walker, when you also started from a ground zero type platform, by the time it end the game, the Mother Base looks so in depth, so developed. Got helicopter pads, helicopters. You got all these extra features. But in MGS5, crickets. There's nothing. Somehow there's no Amanda, there's no Chico, there's no Major. Well, Chico's dead. Then why is that concept of him being alive? I supposed to believe that they had no plans for Chico's going into the future, especially after Ground Zeroes, especially after Big Boss got put into a coma, and Skullface and Zero's aware of that, just like Kazuhara Miller, just like Revolver Ocelot. I've been obsessed with this game for years. Played through it tons of time. Love the true ending twist reveal that the player, the medic, was the boss this whole time. This whole time. Who would have known? But then again, there is one YouTuber for years said this wasn't Big Boss. They called him crazy. They called him insane. It turns out he was right this whole time. Right? It's hilarious. It's funny. It really is. It's like a real Die Hard session to me, this game. But there's a lot of small things that you pay attention to in the game. Now somebody say, why do I call it a delusional session, right? Every once in a while, I'll go back to that elegant trailer and watch the same old thing of a game that's not real. MGS5 will never be finished. MGS5 will never have a true ending. The phantom pain of relief I'm looking for will never go away. I can't even get a fake on to relieve it. I've been obsessed playing with this game just out of boredom just going back on old time, just trying to get trophies on another account. I replayed this game way too much for my own good, right? And it's an obsession to a certain degree, cause it's just, and then it's gotten so bad to the point where I've come upon some uncomfortable truths, and that is, if you play Ground Zeroes, there was a hard and easy section. It had a lot of more details and features, the way the Walkman reacted and things like that. And then you get to the main Phantom Pain, and most of Chapter 2 is rehash. Peace Walkers had 10 times better side missions than the entirety of the Phantom Pain. You could have just reused those side missions for this game. And that's when I started to hold some resentment, not just towards Konami, but also Kojima. What does Kojima have to do with this? Because at the end of the day, doing that back to forth debacle, whether you want to believe this or that about what happened, someone had to make the hardcore decisions of what to do for the later chapter. And we could have just ended at chapter 1. And chapter 2 just could have been this epilogue. Nobody would have complained. But that's not what happened. We got a whole chapter 2 was rehashed, which probably should have been a side mission or a feature of the original game. That's what it should have been. Right. That's what it should have been. Just a whole lot of unanswered questions. A whole lot. I feel like there was supposed to be a whole chapter 2 where we would follow up with the whole Venom's sake no longer trusting Kazuhara Miller. Now somebody say why? We get the post-credit scene where Kazuhara Miller was going to join up with join up with Venom Snake, and it's going to be this big great thing, right? There's only one problem. Why else would Big Boss look behind him and see Kazuhara Miller just like Skullface? Why? In the game, well, you know, people change, you know, Kazuhara can be vindictive, so on and so on. Someone brought up an interesting question. I think it's the same, like, Python, Saken, could be wrong. Also brought up the question, for 9 years. For 9 years, what was Kazuhara Miller doing for 9 years when Big Boss was in the coma? How was he able to get in contact with Cypher? Again, after you told him he was a one-time thing, Kazuhara. You got Cold Walker saying, watch it for, like, there was supposed to be a whole traitor plotline with Kazuhara Miller. I don't think he was supposed to be there. Because another reason that's supposed to happen is, if Venom Snake is killed or taken out in the first Metal Gear Solid game, right? Not Metal Gear Solid, first Metal Gear game, right? Then how does Kazuhara Miller end up working with Solid Snake before the first game? How does that happen? You don't find that a little strange? So he wasn't there when Solid Snake showed up and invaded? Why wasn't he? I thought he was going to join Venom Snake all the way. So there had to be some type of falling out between him and Venom Snake. Similar with Chico. Chico and Amanda were supposed to be in this game. Oh, no, they're not. Don't give me that Billy Jack, boy. We all seen the concept art. And how to why do you think there's so many truth tapes at the end of this game? Because they had no other choice besides, well, we got to wrap up this story somehow. Well, give it all the choice. Bring in Troy Baker and all the other voice actors, and you know what time it is. Just spill out the truth all in the voice actors, so and so. Like, I don't know what was going on over there in Japan or Konami at the time, but you guys couldn't keep it together to finish the gosh damn game. We was gonna make money either way. Was another thing. Don't you think it's strange that Kojima really promoted Metal Gear Solid Online 3? Y'all didn't think that was strange or weird? How it was only Konami who kept pushing that, and then somehow proceeded to butcher Metal Gear Solid Survive, which it could have worked. It literally could have worked. And how could it work? It could have explained how all them wandering mother-based soldiers became the thing. They got teleported doing the wormhole technology, which could have been a prototype he was working on. Who knows? And it leads to this other interdimensional world where they got to fight their way out, and the final boss would have been Metal Gear Zeke. Now, 9 years later, everybody's back to reality, but they're not really the same. But that did not happen, I did. It did not happen. And it really has gotten to the point where I started to blame Kojima for some of the things in this game. Like a lot of it. Because at the end of the day, somebody had to make those final choices. Konami butchered the definitive edition. But for that first game, for the Phantom Pain, somebody had to make the last choice. And the proof they could have just cut it down to chapter 1 and have everything else be epilogue. Ground Zeroes. Ground Zeroes is not a $40 to $50 game. Nobody. Nobody. We got replay value. No one's trying to hear that. Nobody. But you know, it eats away at me some days, you know. Thinking back at this game, the amount of hype, it was an obsession. Which is why I don't really talk about Metal Gear no more. There could be some like old stuff on the older channels, but it's just I have no interest in Metal Gear Delta. It's just not my type of thing. Especially when Konami, if they really wanted to, do what Konami's doing now by remaking those old games. See, that's the thing. There's a gimmick. The remakes of why you all think it's weird that they was able to bring back the first guys to remake Resident Evil 1, but somehow at Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4, especially with the story, they went in a different direction. Almost like they didn't want to associate with the creators of those games. You know, those creators who went on to fund Platinum Games and all these other studios. Coincidence, right? So in this case, right, if you want to make a brand new Metal Gear, but play it safe, but also have fan interest, why not remake Metal Gear 1? It's an 8-bit game. You can fill in a lot of the gaps. And you can do a Twin Snake scenario, which would work. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't? Get to flesh out and explore this early part of Metal Gear. Solid Snake doing his first early missions would be great. It would be fantastic. It didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. Because there's a whole feature to customize your helicopter from Ground Zero. You know, a model that you already got. A gameplay model that's already been installed on the Fox engine. You couldn't port that helicopter to MGS5. Even with Konami, y'all can't do it. But you want to make Metal Gear Delta. No offense to the team working on that game, but come on. Come on. Come on. Went for the easiest option possible. The easiest option. That and the wheel symbology, so on and so on. Dealing with Colonel Vogan, the man on fire, which is never explained how Colonel Vogan got that mask on his face. Maybe somebody else put it on him. Who knows? In the early days of Psycho Mantis and Liquid, in which how does Liquid end in Africa? Who knows? Did a DNA test, boss. He's not your son. Ocelot. Ocelot. Stop playing quadruple agent. You know why Liquid's not my son? Because you know who I am, damn it. Cut the lies, damn it. You know exactly what type of operation you're running here with Cypher. And where the real big boss is. In Zanzibar land, making his real country. While I'm out here doing his wet, dirty work, keeping his legacy alive through a ghost. It's not even real. Everything with Venom Snake is just delusional fantasy. That's nowhere close to reality. The person pretty much becomes Skullface at the end of the game. By the end of the game, well, the official ending they gave us, not the actual one. If you look at it, we become no different from Skullface. We no longer have our language. We can no longer produce children. Any sense of former identity is pretty much gone. Now somebody say, well, you can change your face back with your avatar. At that point, what difference does it make? It's done. It's over. It's dead. Whoever you are at this point is gone. You are a big boss now. Whether you want to be it or not. And none of it was real. All the memories and the suggestions, all of it was just a delusional fantasy. We sure has something going with the because like that Katsuhara Miller thing is just, I was just supposed to believe that Skullface just turned on you randomly after 9 years. 9 years, Miller. He just let you be with Diamond Dogs and just randomly. Miller gotta get taken out because remember, Zero was poisoned years ago, some time ago. So I'm supposed to believe that randomly. Well, you know, I just got poisoned in there. Nah, he was done. He got poisoned years ago back when Snake was in his coma. So I'm supposed to sit here and believe that Skullface just let you go? all these years. And was just never explained why Kazuhiro eyes look like that. It never is. Now I'll assume my first playthrough, right? That Kazuhiro Miller, this man is he's done. He's infected with the parasite. But even when the parasite is cured, he still got those same eyes. Even before he's infected. Like pay attention to Miller early in the game. Like early chapter 1. The first like 5, 6, 8 mission. Anytime his radio call, look at his eyes. Before their parasites got you looking like this? What did they cut off his arm and foot for? If somebody say, well, that's quite strange a question. I don't think about this. How many times have we actually seen somebody get tortured and lose fingers in Metal Gear? Can't think of it, right? One of the major torture scenes in MGS3, person lost an eye. People don't often get tortured and, you know, lose a limb like that by the person who's torturing them. So, similar, what role would Chico play? Because Chico wasn't in Chapter 1. Then what role would Chico play in Chapter 2? Is Skullface the actual main villain of MGS5? Because you think about it, if Amanda was supposed to make some cameo, if they were supposed to go back to Camp Omega in Cuba, could have been a chance, it could have been a few Costa Rica missions. Because they're already pretty much like a Lord of the Flies, like, cut scene with Liquid and the ST-84. On which does the undead carcass of the ST-84 become the early basis for Metal Gear Rex? They no longer needed the standing up part. Just repaired to the point where it can just be bipedal and that's it. That should be enough. I don't know, man. How much is like Kazuhiro Miller? Losing Mother Base killed the man known as Peace. He was never the same after that. And whatever he did for the next 9 years, doing wet work, I don't know, man. There should be a place to go. Veterans coming together and making their own piece of the land to live by themselves. To choose missions for themselves. You had 9 years, Miller. 9. And the best you come up with how we find you in the first game? But I guess I'm the one I find that suspicious. More than likely, Miller was working with Cypher after that. Question of why? You're gonna have to ask Major Zero for that. I can't give you an answer. Why Benedict Miller was working with the opposition. And eventually, around the same time, not too long after, when Skullface saw no longer use for him, he got rid of him. And also think about it. When Skullface got killed, why did Miller make it so personal to blow his limbs off himself? That seems to be quite personal. Because the way it seems, well, Skullface just gave Kazuhiro Miller to the Russians, and it was the Russians who did that to him. Did it? Or was it Skullface who did it this whole time? Your whole unit get wiped out, you survived, Kazuhiro? Why not kill you when he had the chance? Huh? Huh? Cause what use would you be? Diamond Dogs. If you want to wipe him out, kill Miller. But somehow Benedict Miller survives. The gig is up, Kaz. It is what it is. Doesn't mean that Kaz is at his foundation a bad person. No. But whatever interactions he had with Cypher during those 9 years changed Kaz as a person. And maybe the boss had a point. Big boss to not contact Miller at any point after that. And only deal with Revolver Ocelot. Because he was damaged goods at that point. He was never going to ever truly cut out Cypher. Never. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm going crazy. I don't know. Maybe I spent way too much time playing this game over and over again, connecting the dots. Similar, I think this was to be a third map. That's not just Camp Omega. So that Camp Omega easily could have been added in the game in the finished edition. Well, why would we go on there? Do some wet work. Or take out a few bureaucrats, this and that. You don't need to come up with a complex plot story-wise to go back to Camp Omega, especially if you just want to add in the map from Ground Zeroes. What would that third map be? Who knows? Could have been a Russian map. Could have been somewhere further in the Middle East. And it could have been South America. If we're gonna go to Cuba, Nicaragua, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, all those countries got some piece into it. Now, what was going around during that time in the 80s? I can't say. But if it does ties back bigger to the Patriots, and the reason why, that's another thing, right? Why would, now, taking out Big Boss with the Patriots, that's one thing, right? Could have been trying to replace him with so on and so on, right? If everybody knew that Venom Snake was fake, even Major Zero after he got poisoned, why go after a snake that's not real? Why kill Venom Snake? What does that do? What does that achieve? Well, that put him on the same level as Big Boss. Does it? This is a guy that you're brainwashing to being Big Boss, whose DNA you did not use for gene therapy with the later soldiers. This was just some guy to keep the legend alive. We're not act like this. This is just some guy that's just, well, you know, unstoppable warrior or something like that. But I guess he had to die, right? I don't know. I think the conspiracy goes a little bit deeper. But Kazuhara really is a rat, though. I gotta give it to Ocelot. Well, technically, Ocelot did take out your mother. And your father did pass away by your mother. And she was told by the UFG. Ocelot's a very tragic character when you think about it. But as I say, it's not like I think about it all the time. But it's just, I don't know, certain questions, certain scenarios, certain missions, certain things play out over and over again. It's just, it's similar like, why, like on mission episode 5, what, 6, the Honeybee mission? Why introduce Sahelanthropus then? Well, it's just silhouetted. Like, if you think about it, you can speed run MGS 5s in about 12 hours. Without doing any side missions, purely focusing on the main mission. You can kill a Skullface in about 10 hours. So I mean, no prisoner extractions, no focus on the FB. If you was just to play this game casual of the casuals, you can burn through chapter 1 quite quickly. If you don't care about the side stuff. You know, the blueprints and extracting the right soldiers and making 4 operating bases. Like, you can easily get the Skullface quite simply. So it's this. If Skullface is not the main villain, right? Because that was supposed to be a whole chapter 2. What was chapter 2 and a potential chapter 3 supposed to be about? It's supposed to be about nuclear disarmament. You think we really cared about some gosh damn nukes? You think the UN cared about some nukes? The whole New UN thing was false. Here we set us up. Really makes you wonder. But I don't think it'll ever go away. Came up with a lot of, you know, fan-made stuff to finish up the game, or have this mission take us to Russia, or go to Ukraine, or something like that. Maybe Yugoslavia, I don't know. Switch up the environment, you know, more wooded area, where it's like in-depth woods, you know. Somehow, like, why not bring back the camo system? Cause now you got a camo system that's there, but it's just, you can't tell how much. Then like somebody say, well, unless you have that as a gadget, I'd rather have a gadget codex index than not to have one. Cause you use camouflage in MGS5. It's 50-50 whether it works or not. And it's 50-50 when you need to stop using that camouflage. The older games tell you right away. This game, well, hope they don't see you. I don't know. It's somehow outside the SC-84. We had Huey right there. In an imitation Dr. Strangelove. Well, no, that's not true. An imitation of the boss. That Huey killed Dr. Strangelove. That I'm telling you, I hate Huey as a character. I'm glad he. Well, you know, maybe who? Nah, he's a rat. He's a rat. He helped cause this whole problem. Imagine if Huey did become a rat. Somebody say it was Skullface and Major Zero, and Zero should have killed Skullface. Skullface would not have a back door to attack the boss like this. I don't know. Because if Skullface was not the main guy, and nuclear disarmament is just a dream, right? For total just all nukes to go away, then who was supposed to be the final boss of the game? Who was supposed to be the storyline that wraps everything up? Because this was presented through all the marketing that this is the game where Big Boss becomes the devil, becomes this evil person, becomes this spawn from hell. If that's the case, then just playing through chapter 1 and chapter 2, not too many bad things happen. Unless there was supposed to be a plot line where, all those children that were child soldiers that you took into Mother Base, almost like, you would have watched those children grow up to work for you. And those child soldiers would grow up to be your best buddies. Like, there are certain cutscenes in the Red Band Sparrow trailer, in the Nuclear trailer. Like, where is all this stuff? This stuff was never in the game. All these extra torture scenes, where they at? That environment where everything's on fire, where is that at? That's never seen in the game. You can't say, well, that's the incomplete cutscene from when you're going to get a Philanthropist with liquid controlling. One problem. That area is in Zaire, Africa. The area where you fight the Philanthropist Part 3 with Liquid Snake again, that's like in Madagascar. That's in a whole different place. So where's all these dead bodies coming from? Could there be a further plot line with the parasites? Because the skull unit shows up, and after a certain point, the skull unit is no longer a threat. They become a casual thing. They stop being like a major ordeal, especially after you get Cold Talker. So, I'm just upset that one of the best Metal Gear's Philanthropist is just, well, it just goes out on a whimper. I'm supposed to believe that y'all can't finish that final cutscene, that y'all can't make one final boss fight for the definitive edition, which would boost sales to buy this game. You can't put Camp Omega inside the game, but you got years to, for one. And then you butcher Survive story mode, in which everybody could have liked. Survive could have been a fascinating prisons. Got RPG features of starvation and working up your stats in a Metal Gear game. It could have worked. Especially with the wormhole technology. And connecting all the way back to Zeke. Could have been fantastic. Imagine that ending is that your player character becomes one of them wandering Mother Base soldiers. Would have been great, right? Would have been. But that's been more or less my opinion about my delusional obsession with this game. Hopefully, it turns out the way I wanted it to, and it's not just a bunch of nonsensical ramblings. But it's just, I don't know. The more I played the game, the more I started to despise how this game turned out. And Konami was the only one catching the blame, because Kojima had to make the final decisions on certain things. And Konami takes the most blame for just butchering it. And then just, if you're going to not have Kojima involved, like, you can do something to wrap this up better. You got the fucking money. Well, we're not going to do main console games anymore. Who is running this gosh darn company? Fired him immediately. Then again, like always, sometimes you got to do it yourself. But, the story of MGS5 was alright. When I say I was obsessed, watched every gameplay trailer, watched every trailer. I became the biggest fan of listening to that song by New Order Elegant for quite some time. Even to this day, it's still an amazing song. But, I don't know. All I gotta say is the pain is still there. And it won't stop hurting. But some of the trailers with, like that Donna Troy song, fantastic. But we don't get no Ava in this game or anything like that. What point does she have? Connection back to the Patriots, and who knows? I don't think she would have had a major role. Anything, nothing like MGS4, but would have been something, right? Or them or the rest of the Patriots either. Or the beginning of the Patriots AI for that matter. Same with the Liquid plotline. It's just a lot of things I believe was supposed to be wrapped up in Chapter 3. Now the epilogue, would it have led into Solid Snake showing up as the years went by? I don't believe so. Now that would be a nice way to end the game, having Solid Snake, appearing one day. rather as a final cutscene or actually showing up to one of your FOB bases or the base that was in MGS1. It would be great, right? Didn't happen. But I don't know. Too many. And I can't let it go. The concept, the dream of this game is more real than the game itself. I don't care how crazy that sounds. I'm telling you, years I spent waiting for this game. Years. Gameplay. When they're showing up cutscenes and quiet and D-Dog and D-Horse and D-Walker and all these things. How many things were cut from this game? Because the art book don't show it all. You can tell the lingering features. Why do you think like the extra buddies got so limited features? Why do you think the D-Walker got limited upgrades? Why do you think the battle tank that's made by Huey just shows up and disappears? Coincidence? Me thinks not. It was supposed to be a main feature. The map is big enough for you to drive a tank. And you can drive other vehicles. And you can pick up other vehicles. But you can't deploy with that super tank that you made. You can't bring them into boss fights. Matter of fact, there aren't too many vehicle boss fights in this game, but there's a lot in Peace Walker. Helicopter battles, so on and so on. All become side missions, right? Coincidence, right? Right, just all coincidence. Surprised that there was no mention of the CIA in this game. I don't know. But the phantom pain is still there. The ideal of the game. Like, I could see it with my own 2 eyes, but it's not reality. I swear there's supposed to be at least 3 chapters in the epilogue to this game. Because chapter 2, the nuanced groundwork, you could argue that watching Venom Snake ended up by himself. We lose Huey, we lose Quiet, and probably by the end of that chapter 2, the official canon, we was going to lose Kazuhara Miller. By chapter 3 of MGS5, it would just be Solid Snake and Revolver Ocelot. And even then, Ocelot might decide this is my time to pull the parachute and get the hell out of here. Because depending how violent and detrimental this whole brand new big boss is supposed to be, the legend brought back to life, Ocelot, as a quadruple agent, knows his road to the finish. He gonna set off this ticking time bomb and walk away before the explosion kicks off. And then the Patriots gonna use their excuse for the connection with the CIA and the military to seal in Solid Snake. Cause we can't let a loose dog run rampant for that long. Cause I'm supposed to believe that Kazuhara Miller was gonna let him get killed, or still connected to Cypher. He was like, think about it. The major theme is losing everything in chapter 2. You lose to the Philanthropist, you lose Huey. You're not supposed to you leave Miller either. Why was Kazuhara hinted towards being just like Skullface when he willingly gave up his nation, just like Snake did? And he willingly gave up his backstory, just like Snake did. What else would be the comparison besides from Skullface? Just like how he stabbed Zero in the back, Miller would stab you in the back, but he gets away. He turns himself into the CIA, and he turns on you. And eventually, through his cooperation, he leads to Venom Snake getting killed by Solid Snake. Consider it a final fake victory for Kazuhara Miller. No more will he be played. No more will he be the last one to find out anything. No longer he'll be moved around by pieces behind the scene with the Patriots or Big Boss. He can finally live and make his own decisions. Only difference is those decisions led him to be put down by Liquid. Gosh darn shame, really. Before Ground Zeroes, everything was kumbayas and everybody was friends. Cause then, if that was gonna be chapter 2, right? Then what was gonna be chapter 3? If chapter 2, 1 is building up this massive force, and once you get the whole ending cutscene with Philanthropist standing up, chapter 2 is losing everything. Chapter 3 is where the legend of the evil man of Big Boss is born. That is where the monster comes to life. And that's when Ocelot will be putting the finishing touches on the sleep raising to the finish. And unleash this monstrosity of Venom Snake onto the world. Now, unlike Solid Snake or even Big Boss, Naked Snake, the snakes they're depicted as are quite neutral, right? Aside from their stealth techniques, they're quite neutral, right? They're not really violent. They're not really so aggressive, right? But it's only Venom Snake that is given the title Venom Snake. It's in his name. Out of all the snakes, has no morality, has no qualms, has no problem with doing wet work. Venom Snake is the living embodiment of a monster gone wrong. A living, breathing Frankenstein that's been unleashed upon the world. Because Miller ended up working with Solid Snake either way. And the bigger question is, right, if Ocelot turns Venom Snake killed, and is it through that agreement that Big Boss accidentally gave off his location, leading to Snake invading Zanzibar land, leading to his own potential surface downfall until MGS4? Who knows? Who knows? But through that through line, all the marketing at Phantom Pain would make sense. It will make sense why it's supposed to be this game where Big Boss turned evil. It will make sense why it is built up as, oh, it's gonna be this triumphant great thing. It will make sense why they got the red band trailers and the, I'm telling you, it was supposed to get nitty and gritty. Like, this is the game where Ocelot goes from basic torture to the real deal. But I'm pretty sure, yeah. By the time Chapter 3 would have happened, not sure, could you be a decent monster? Of course, that was always going to be an option. But the whole theme is a Frankenstein monster made by Cypher, allowed by Big Boss, Ocelot, Kazuhara Miller. It is a monster of their own making. They brainwashed this guy for years. They made him believe a complete fantasy. And arguably, maybe Venom and Scarface Skullface aren't so different after all. Because everybody got played. Everybody got betrayed. And the only two people left standing in the end after everybody's bodies dropped was Major Zero and Big Boss. The two people who started it all and the two people it died with. Even long after the Patriots' physical bodies died, they lived on in AI. But only two kept persisting throughout no matter what. Solid Snake and Major Zero. Ironically enough, the one that influenced everybody truly died in Peace Walker. The boss drowned herself, and the AI was never the same after that. It truly was a ghost in the machine, not anymore. And that game with Peace Walker was letting everything go. No matter how much Snake deluded himself saying, well, she betrayed us, or she did so and so. Snake, let it go. It's over. She's dead. It's over, Snake. It's done. The mission's over. It's time to come home now. It's done. There's no excuse you can use to justify for killing your own mentor. You did what you had to do, and you did it for your country. Which is what everybody wanted. Everybody knew this ordeal, Snake. But why lie to yourself? Why can't Big Boss live with the fact that the boss gave her life for the personal ties and emotions? Is that really what it means to be a soldier, Snake? Or is your ideal of being a soldier is not what everybody wants? Because even then, going into the Solid Snake era, what it means to be a soldier becomes more and more artificial. You get more and more detached from your own humanity and become a cog on the machine. Gene therapy. Altered cyborg soldiers. The full 9 yard. Any type of humanity in fighting war changes. Becomes artificial. Becomes fake. Fantasy. That's put out there for products. It's kind of like an action movie in a way. Sure, people may die, but you know, that's all just paperwork. At the end of the day, it doesn't have to achieve anything if everybody benefits from the war economy. Those who are for it and those who are against it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too deep into the game. Like I tell you, like this is a somewhat delusion obsession. Like I played this game way too many times. Way too many times. The game has nothing else. That's sad. How can a person be enthralled by an idea that he can't imagine? Imagine being able to see something that is not even in reality Like this isn't like everything I could have just said in the last past what 30 plus minutes. There's no foundational facts behind what I say, besides from my own personal deductive reasoning, which could be from my madman. There is nothing, nothing to prove any of this. Like there's nothing. This is, but it will make sense with the themes, right? The way this game was pushed to be Big Boss turns evil, because you're a big boss now, Snake. Because remember, Kazuhara, you're a spy, I'm a spy, we're all spies. So if everybody's spies, Ocelot is working for his own means. Ocelot, well, Kazuhira Miller's working for his own means. So whatever happened to Cold Talkers? Remember, in Metal Gear Solid, we never hear about parasites ever again. Does that mean Cold Talkers also get taken away from? Does that mean Cold Talker later on gets killed? Because you can kill the end. What's about the questions? No, MGS was supposed to be the end. Kojima knew it. Konami knew it. Everybody knew it. It's 5. That Kojima made it quite clear that this will be the last game. So whether it's Konami releasing Ground Zero to milk out some more money, by the time Chapter 1 was completed, on which is most of the footage in the launch trailer, everybody knew by that point that Kojima had no interest in continuing the franchise after this. It was done. It was over. It was a wrap. Like any love he had for it died. You could see it with MGS2. MGS3 was like a fun prequel game, right? You can go back to the past. You can explore all these options, but the way MGS4 turns out, and the way when I tried to play the game when I was young, because I love MGS3, right? And I love Peace Walker, right? But playing MGS4, it doesn't feel like any other Metal Gear. It feels strange. The level design, the way everything connects together is weird. The cutscenes and everything else is just, it was MGS4 where any real fan could notice that Kojima, like, he's given everything he had to Solid Snake. There's nothing left for him to give. There's nothing. So MGS5 was, well, it could be just like MGS3. Like, we reached the end with Solid Snake and MGS2, went back to Big Boss. Metal Gear Solid 4, Peace Walker, right? So we can go back to Beast Boss and wrap up his storyline. Well, sadly, things didn't turn out like that because Kojima didn't want to work on Big Boss anymore. He believed that he was a finished character. So what if you make a fake character that's perceived to be Big Boss, but really isn't? And the whole time, you believe a lie. A blatant lie. That's nowhere close to reality. And everybody goes along with it, with the behind the scenes and the Kojima dressing up like Ishmael and so on and so on. Everybody takes the bait that this is the real Solid Snake. But based on what? We never heard of Big Boss ever losing a limb. How did he get those fragments removed from his head? Why don't he got them scars in MGS4? But nobody questioned it, and it will be great. Everybody will go along with it. Got these great. You can bring back Colonel Bogan, introduce Psycho Mantis, all these real supernatural elements that don't involve nanomachines. And which, arguably, that could be the true reason why Kojima introduced nanomachines and why most of the plot of 4 were just nanomachines. Because it was done. It was over. It was the end of the road. Any type of fantastical, I'm tired. And I'm giving this franchise everything I can give. Even working at, like, going, what, 20 years? 30 years? Now, you could tell, like, because Metal Gear does not have a consistent plot structure. And somebody said, what do you mean? Kojima didn't plan Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 and plan on making Metal Gear Solid 3 or 4. With each game Konami brought him back for, he was just winging it and connecting it to the past. And Metal Gear Solid 5 was supposed to be the ultimate, winging it and connecting everything together. Every loose thread. The 2 bosses. Liquid Snake. Solid Snake, all of it. It's supposed to wrap up all of it. How did Big Boss get this bad name for being an evil guy? Becoming this terror, this guy who sold the world. How did this happen? Well, it wasn't him. It was a body double. It was a delusion. There's nowhere close to reality because at the end of the day, who's going to actually search for the truth? Most people don't care for it. The truth is only good when it benefits me. But as long as it promotes a joke or entertainment, we can lie to the end of time. Because at the end of the day, who's it going to hurt? I'm not going to remember this conversation in 15 years anyway. And life will go on like nothing even happened. There'll be no punishment for what I've done. There'll be no punishment for nothing. And life will go on, and most people won't have a care for anything else. It's a sad reality. But, the Patriots die. Big Boss dies. And Solid Snake dies. So that's another thing. To wrap this whole thing up, a lot of people dislike Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance before it came out because the premise was writing, oh, he completed his story arc and he got Jack and he's with Rose and everything else. There's only one problem. That doesn't solve writing's mental problems. Writing has issues. And he's always had issues. And just acting like, well, just because he's happy, if we get this happy ending that all that stuff is going to go away, it's not reality. It's not going to go away now. Post MGS, Metal Gear Solid. I guess. But there's something wrong at writing's core. Ever since he was born, ever since he was a child soldier, ever since especially MGS2. Fundamentally wrong. Especially when he became a cyborg in MGS4. Think any normal person would do that to themselves? A full body conversion like that? Any reasonable person would. But I'm supposed to believe what? Well, just because he got a son that he's just gonna just go back to normal. Yeah. Just like how Solid Snake after he wrapped up the big shell incident, that he just everything just went back to normal, right? The perfect example of it's not over until it's over. What do you mean? I can't explain it to you, but it's just like whether you're going through some type of trauma or you're going through something in life, you're not surely sure if you're clear in the tunnel and you're out from the darkness until you no longer think about the darkness itself. That you become so removed from that moment that you look back on it as something that happened and not just something that is still happening or could happen next. And it's only then you can truly let it all go. It's kind of like what Raiden did at the end of Revengeance. When he made that bonding moment with Senator Armstrong when he killed him. There was a common sense of understanding. In a way, Raiden can't just sit on the sidelines and just let the world just do whatever it wants. The only difference between Senator Armstrong and Raiden was how they're going to get to the objective. That is it. The song and the lyrics that it has to be this way tell it all. But maybe we're both saying. So at the end of the day, Raiden chose to fight for himself. He pulls out a big boss or a Solid Snake. He's no longer fighting for a nation or for private militaries. He do this because he wants to. It doesn't consume his life. It's not the only thing he is. He's not just Jack the Ripper. He's his own person. He has chosen to do this. He's not driven from some sense of morality. He's not driven by some urge to get back into the battlefield. All that dies when he kills Senator Armstrong. The only thing he's driven by this point is his own ambitions to make the world a better place. I don't know. But yeah, that's been my thoughts and opinions about my delusional obsession with this game. I think I love the game and hate the game and care for the game a little bit too much at the same time. But it's WK that got thoughts and opinions. What are you guys experiencing with MGS5? How much of a part of your life was it? To me, it was, I want to say it was everything, but it was the most hyped game. When I say to this day, it is one of the only games I purchased day one because I begged my mother back in 2015, September. I remember the day it came out. And when I begged her for it, I didn't think it was going to happen. It was like, I'll take you up there. I was excited. I sure had to go to school the next day, but boy, I couldn't believe I would actually be able to get it day one. I still got the receipt from GameStop and everything. It was everything, but I don't know. Maybe there's some of my thoughts and opinions about the game. But the phantom pain won't go away. don't know. I'll leave you guys with this, right? There's a theme throughout the Solid Snake saga, which started with Big Boss, but it carried over to David with Solid Snake. In the first MGS, Otacon asks Solid Snake, what are you fighting for? And one of the major themes in MGS 3 about fighting for your country or fighting for yourself is that who do your loyalty lies most to as a soldier? Is it to the mission? Is it the loyalty? Is it the personal ambitions? Or maybe it is just as chaotic and messed up as the world is, and there is no right way to be a soldier. At the end of the day, all that matters is, I don't know. But me, Kirby, who got like the video, like, comment, subscribe, and peace. I kept you waiting, huh?